Hello, I'm Mike O'Connor, Senior Solutions Engineer with Flexera Software. Welcome to today's webinar, Evaluating All That AdminStudio Suite Has to Offer. Whether this is your first time using AdminStudio or you're looking for a quick refresher, we at Flexera want to make sure that you get the most out of the AdminStudio Suite. To that end, I'll be covering capabilities and how it can accelerate the preparation of both your third-party and internally built applications for deployment to end users within your organization. AdminStudio has been around for about 15 years and is well known as the premier Windows repackaging solution. However, it goes well beyond just packaging and customizing Windows applications. In today's webinar, I'll show you how AdminStudio Suite can help you test all of your desktop, web, and mobile applications for readiness in your environment, and how you can add additional automation to speed this testing process up even further. The application catalog within an AdminStudio suite can improve the productivity across the groups that prepare applications. Now, many organizations we speak with have inefficient processes when it comes to managing the applications in their environment, including where the applications are stored and accessed. Add to that, you've got an ever-increasing complex computing environment with more applications coming out more often. So how do you manage what applications are prepared and ready for deployment? Well, with AdminStudio Suite and its application catalog, you have a central place for all your applications before they're deployed. Let's go and take a quick look at the application catalog now. So I've launched AdminStudio, and if I go over the Tools gallery, I'll see the option at the top for the Application Manager. So the application catalog is kind of think of it as like a central hub within AdminStudio. This is where all the testing that AdminStudio provides, and this is where all your applications come into, and you can organize them according to different groups, however it makes sense for your organization. This is where your Windows applications get imported, mobile applications, Mac applications, websites and web applications, and virtual packages, as well as merge modules, transforms, and the rest. So if I launch the application manager, I've already stood up and created a sample application catalog. I've imported some applications, some Windows applications, mobile, and so forth. Let me show you how easy it is to import a new application. So I choose to launch the import wizard. Now I can import a single application at a time. I can actually point to a folder and pull in all the applications that are in those folders. I can tie into a deployment system like Microsoft System Center Configuration Manager and pull packages from there. For mobile and Mac applications, as well as Windows store apps, I can connect to those stores and pull in applications there and grab the deep link that points back to that application. And then for websites, I can point to a URL, provide any credentials I may need, and we can pull web pages in too. I'm going to do a single application. And you can see all the different formats that I can import Mac applications, mobile, virtual applications. I'm going to choose a Windows installer package. This is a MSI application that I've repackaged using AdminStudio. If I had any patches that I wanted to apply to this MSI, I could add those, as well as any transform files. And I can add multiple transforms and change the order in which they're applied. I've got one transform here, so I'll make sure that gets included. I can choose the destination group within my catalog. I could create a new group if I wanted to right from here. It shows me a summary of what I'm about to do, and hit next. Okay, and after about a minute or so, the application was imported into my catalog, and I actually ran all the compatibility testing that we offer for operating system, virtualization, best practices, and more. I can click on this application and I can have some information around deployment types. So this is where I can configure the application once I'm ready to publish this into something like Config Manager or Symantec Altiris. You can see information around program, install, uninstall command lines, user experience, detection methods, all the things you would usually configure within the administration console of your deployment system. But we can save all this information here in the catalog, so when we're ready to distribute this application, publish it up into your distribution system, all this information, not only the installer, but all this metadata gets imported as well. So I'm in the catalog tab. I can also go to Test Center. I can look at the test results. And the Report Center tab takes the test results across all the applications I've imported in my catalog and run testing on, and let me to see an overall view. You can see Windows 10 64-bit compatibility, which applications are ready, which ones have some issues, which ones are automatically fixable. Same thing with application virtualization, which ones are ready, which ones have some issues, some best practices for Windows installer. There's other reports up here too. So there's different ways to view the catalog and get the information that you need. I'll show you some more about the testing capabilities coming up next in the video. Now, moving to a new version of Windows can take time to test all of your applications and determine if they'll work for the new platform. With new versions of the operating system coming out more often, not to mention new versions of your applications coming out more frequently too, it's a lot of work to manage all these changes and meet the accelerated deadlines IT organizations are asked to deliver on. Well, with AdminStudio Suite, you can quickly run automated application compatibility tests on all your applications. This quickly identifies which applications are ready for the next version of Windows and which ones have issues. AdminStudio will show you the details and provide automated fixes for many of these. All this in a matter of minutes per application. So let's go back in my sample application catalog and take a look at the testing for the Windows platform. So I'm back in my application catalog. And as I mentioned before, over in Test Center, this is where I can look at all the test results. This is where I can also configure AdminStudio, what tests I actually want to run for the different aspects of compatibility testing we offer. So you see here under operating system compatibility, I have it for different platforms. Under Microsoft, I have server, desktop, and phone. Let's go to the desktop, look under the 64-bit architecture, and I see Windows 10 64-bit selected. Now underneath that, you'll see there's roughly about somewhere between 50 and 60 major rules here with thousands of different subchecks underneath. And these are all the rules that we have that are available to do the compatibility testing. So the idea here is Microsoft makes available all the changes they've made from one version of Windows to the next, and any changes that could affect the compatibility of an application running on that platform, we go ahead and make a rule or tweak a rule that we already have to line up and check for those different requirements. So it may be something that Microsoft now requires all applications to follow in order to run properly on Windows 10, or conversely, it's no longer a certain capability, an API call or something is no longer supported on Windows 10, and so we want to make sure we check for that too. So each of these rules you can see, if I click on one on the left here, on the right you can see a description about it, background around why we're actually testing for this and why it's important to look for when it comes to OS compatibility. Our suggestion around a manual fix if you want to go ahead and try to remediate this issue yourself. And in many cases we also have one, or in this case two, different ways to automatically fix this particular issue. So if there's an automated fix available within AdminStudio, we'll show you that too. You can tell AdminStudio what the default handling of fixing these applications are. So whether you want to go, in this case I have both a basic and a more advanced auto fix, so you can choose which ones you like, or you can choose not to resolve it automatically within AdminStudio. Even provides you some citations directly to Microsoft about the issue if you want to learn more about it. And we do have a lot of rules in here. We have a wizard to help you select what's considered the industry standard when it comes to these rule sets. So if you're not sure which rules to run, you can use this wizard to help you select what's most pertinent, but you can always go into later and look at the background and choose to enable or disable other rules. That's up to you. So with these rules selected, then I can go ahead and test applications. Now by default within AdminStudio, when an application gets imported, it automatically runs the rules that I have selected here. So kind of think of that last screen as almost a set it and forget it. You set the rules that you want, and if you ever need to go back and tweak the rules, you can, but for the most part, once they're set, you're ready to go. So let's take a look at an application that I've already tested here. Got an older version of WinDVD here. And if I click on that, you can see under operating system compatibility, I have a red, which is an error. Those are, as I like to call them, showstoppers, the things that I want to definitely address because these applications are definitely going to have issues with Windows 10. And if you can also see, there's a little wrench icon right there. That means that there's automated fixes available too. So if I click into that, you can see I've tested it for Windows 10 64-bit as well as Windows Server 2012. And you can see that it's the same issue for both. It's unsupported 16-bit files. So if I'm going to install this application on a 64-bit machine, running it on, there's 16-bit files contained inside of that. That's gonna cause a problem with 64-bit. And if you expand this, you can even show you what's the issue in general. So we have a fix for this. It's a way to basically isolate this driver so it doesn't get installed as part of the application. Now that may address the issue, or in other cases that may be a critical driver. In that case, it's probably best to look at a newer version of WinDVD in this case, or go back to my internal development team and point to them and say I need to go ahead and update this. But in this example, I can go ahead and at least go through the fixes and do some additional testing to see if it fixes it for me. So I can go ahead and choose resolve issues here. I can also hit the button up here. And since we have automated fixes for this, what AdminStudio is going to do is it's going to create a transform file that contains those changes that updates this application to fix those issues, in this case isolating that driver. It's automatically going to import it, create that transform, import it in the catalog alongside this MSI, and then it's going to rerun the tests to show if I have any other issues that I need to address. Now in this particular case, the only issue I had was that 16-bit driver, and that transform file took care of it, so you can see there's no longer any issues here. So this one is ready for some additional remediation testing, some user acceptance testing to verify that if fix does indeed address the issue, and then we can move forward from there. So that initial QA, or sometimes I hear customers call smoke test, that you may spend a few hours on trying to at least find the issues to begin with, AdminStudio shrinks that down into a few minutes and even provides resolution quickly for you. Part of migrating to a new version of Windows means not only testing the native Windows applications, but also the websites and web applications your organization uses in order to make sure that they work in the browsers that are included with Windows. Now, Microsoft has ended support for versions of Internet Explorer prior to version 11 and have introduced a new browser, Edge, that comes with Windows 10. You need to make sure that all of your websites will work with these browsers. Now, usually this is more manual testing that could take hours just for a single website. So let's go back to AdminStudio and show you how it can help you accelerate browser testing for these websites. So I'm back in my catalog and I'm back at the test center. Now first off, importing web applications. It's the same process as importing an MSI. There's a few different ways I could do it. So if I choose a single application option, you can see here there's a web application down here. This would be if I had a collection of web pages that may be hosted in, say, IIS, and I want to host it there. If I have that collection of folders with the different pages, I could pull it in from there. Or if I have a website, and this is either something like maybe my company's intranet or a CRM or ERP application that's hosted internally, I could put the information, the URL there. If it uses Windows authentication, we can go ahead and pass those credentials there, make sure that the connection succeeds, and then we can actually crawl through, and you can control the level, the deep level of how many websites we go deep into. But we'll basically crawl through all those pages, load it in here into the catalog, and then provide testing around Internet Explorer and Edge testing. The other alternative, if you have a website that can't be automatically crawled because it has a paywall or other types of manual login, we can also do a runtime launch of that website in the browser that you're looking to test for, and then we can visit the pages, and as we visit each page, we copy that information in the catalog and do compatibility testing that way. So I've got a web application that I've already loaded in here. And over in Test Center, you can see I've tested for Internet Explorer 11 and the Microsoft Edge browser. And it's very similar to the Windows compatibility testing that you saw before, give you details on exactly what issues there are. So over in the Select Test to Execute area, you can see there's similar compatibility testing, but in this case, it's testing websites for will they render properly in Internet Explorer 11 in Edge, and if not, what those issues are. So I have those tests selected here. And by running the tests on these websites, it'll tell you the page, it'll tell you to the line number 2 what exactly the issues are. A good one that I noted before is this one about plugins. There's a lot of changes around browser plugins and what's allowed and what isn't. So I can see this website that I imported uses Java, uses Adobe Flash, PDF plugin, QuickTime, a lot of different plugins here, things that might start to be being deprecated, especially in the new Microsoft Edge browser. So it's something I want to note, and then if it's an internal page, go back to my web team and have them look at it, or if it's a web application from a commercial vendor, go back and see if there's an updated version that does support this new browser. You can also test for older versions of Internet Explorer, and using the enterprise or compatibility mode within IE11 might be another way to at least temporarily get around the issues that can cause problems with website compatibility. Now, if you've gone down the road of implementing application virtualization within your organization, you probably know that the most difficult step is really knowing which applications can be virtualized. So these formats and these technologies, they really don't provide you any types of upfront testing prior to trying to go down the road. So that means that you really have to become the expert across all the applications you manage. So if you're managing hundreds of applications or even more, this really can be a huge undertaking. Now, we've seen with customers, we see around somewhere between 40 and 60% of a typical application portfolio inside of an organization for Windows applications are good candidates for application virtualization. So it really means, well, why spend the time trying to virtualize half the applications if they're not even going to work with these technologies? Instead, let's quickly understand which applications are good candidates up front, and then we can spend the time just virtualizing those applications and then giving you details on why the other apps are good candidates at this point. So that's what AdminStudio can do. It can help you quickly determine which applications can be virtualized before any work is performed, and the suitable applications can quickly be converted right within AdminStudio, so you don't have to jump around between different tools. This translates upwards of a 9x time savings over using just the native tools. So let's take another look at my sample application catalog and show you what AdminStudio can do for you around the application virtualization technologies. Alright, so I'm back in my application catalog. If I go down to my Windows applications, I've noticed that this version of Blender is actually a good candidate for operating system compatibility. It's also a good candidate for virtualization. If you click on that, no issues around virtualization. So let's go ahead and virtualize this application. I can do this right within the Application Manager UI that I'm in right here. I can right click on it. I can choose Conversion Wizard, and I can choose which virtualization technology I want to support. So I've got the older version, legacy version of AppV version 4. I've got ThinApp. I've got Symantec Workspace virtualization. I've got the legacy XenApp streaming profiles as well. But today I'm going to choose Microsoft AppV version 5. Now you can see I can choose other applications, so I don't have to just virtualize one application at a time. I could do a whole series of them. I'm just going to do Blender in this case. Some additional settings I can configure. There's a configuration setting that I've pre-set up prior for running for this. I can customize any of that if I need to. That's already set up. Shows me the summary, and then I can go ahead and let it take over. Okay, just like that, I was able to take a Windows installer package, test it for compatibility, and then for virtualization, and then natively was able to convert it right from here. So you can see it's also automatically being imported into my catalog. So within Blender, it's alongside the MSI. Go back over to my deployment types. If I'm saying using Microsoft System Center Configuration Manager, I could actually configure both of these as one application, both an MSI and an AppV package. And thanks to Config Manager and its rule set, I can control which deployment goes out to which different users' machines based off of criteria I specify. I can also go ahead and test this application as well. You can see here I've created the AppV package. I've created config, the deployment config and user config files. This is just a temporary file that we use for our conversion. And I've also created this appvlauncher.exe program. This is a program that we developed at Flexera to make it easy to do a runtime test of AppV packages. If you've ever tried to create AppV packages before, you know if you can launch it, that's about somewhere between 80 and 90% of your testing right from there. So if it launches, you're definitely well on your way. So I can go ahead and publish this application. Now I have the AppV client running on my machine. You can see when I published it, Blender, the shortcut shows up. I can even fully load it into the AppV cache. And then I can just launch the application. See, it launches right from there. And I can do any additional functional testing that I need to make sure that this application works correctly. And then once I'm ready, I can stop all processes and remove it from the cache. Simple and straightforward. Now, most organizations used to mainly be a one OS shop, meaning they really only had to support the Windows OS platform, at least for their desktop and their laptop users. Today, though, there's mobile devices like phones and tablets that don't even run Windows, and the organizations now need to manage these devices. Apple Macs are also becoming into more and more organizations and require IT to support them. As an example, IBM, as a large enterprise, they're embracing this technology and going through a rollout of 100,000 Apple Macs across their environment, and they're embracing the iOS platform. So they have to support all these new devices. Now, all the applications for these new platforms should go through a similar application readiness process that your Windows apps went through. However, many IT teams don't even have the expertise for these platforms since they never really had to support them up until now. So how do you quickly get insight into these applications to successfully deploy them and meet your upper management's goals? Well, the answer again is AdminStudio Suite. AdminStudio provides the same application testing framework for all these new platforms that it does for Windows. This allows you to have only one solution and standardized process that can provide insight across all your applications, be it traditional Windows desktop or say the latest app for iOS. So let's jump back to AdminStudio Suite and see how it provides you with a single unified solution to help you quickly test and support the applications on these new platforms. So I'm back in my application catalog. If I go back to the import wizard, just like I imported Windows applications, websites as well, I can also do the same thing for mobile and Mac applications. So I could choose, for example, a single application. For Macs, I can import PKG and DMG files into my catalog. On the mobile side, I can import any internally developed iOS applications, the IPA files. Same thing with Android for the APK files. And we can pull in the Windows Universal Windows Package Format or AppX into this as well. Now I can also go out to our different public stores, so the Apple iOS store as well as the Mac App Store, Google Play, and Microsoft Windows Store, and I can pull down application and get enough information around it to do the compatibility testing, the best practice testing that we offer, and have that deep link that goes back to that App Store. So I would go over to my Mac applications. I can see I've already imported some applications. These are locally imported applications, PKG and DMG files. I also pulled several from the Apple App Store. Now for local applications, especially PKG files, like this Adobe Reader version I have here, you see there's this tab over here. So you may be familiar with Mac applications. There's a similar process to how on the Windows side you can customize an MSI through a transform file. There's a similar concept on the Mac side with PKG files and something called choices.xml. It's an XML file that's embedded inside the PKG file, and the vendor exposes some different options to allow you to configure it during installation without having to have a user go through a prompt. So depending on what choices are available, in this case I have a few, I can choose which ones are selected, enabled, which ones are visible. I can change the custom location for this if I need to. And I can click this button here, and what it'll do is it'll actually go in, write these changes that I made back to the choices.xml file. Typically to do this otherwise would be opening a console within Mac OS and setting these options that way. So provide you a quick and easy way to make those customizations for you. If I go over to the test center area, very similar to how I did Windows compatibility testing, I can do the same thing on the Mac applications too. So you can see I have some warnings here. iDVD, which is a legacy Apple program that's no longer supported, has an error. If I drill into this, I can see why. So I've got some deprecated APIs, frameworks, property keys, but I've also got some removed APIs. So if I try to run this on Mac OS Sierra, I'm going to definitely have some issues with that. There's also some best practices that are in here as well. So we can provide you some similar testing information on the Mac side like we can with Windows. And that includes the Apple App Store applications too. So just letting you know, it requires a 64-bit processor, which is pretty common on most Macs in the last few years. This might be a rule. You can go in here just like the other rules to select test execute, and I can go ahead and customize those options too. Also on the mobile front, we can test iOS, Android. We also have Windows Phone applications in here too, and I can test those for compatibility just like I can on the other platforms. If I go over to Report Center, we have some specific reports that are for the Mac space and the mobile side of things. So for like iOS, for example. So we have testing for the operating system, which applications may have some issues with the latest versions of iOS, which ones have some issues with the different Apple equipment that's out there today, the latest iPhones and iPads. Also, we can pull in some policy information. So if you're pushing and managing mobile applications and devices in your environment, you may have policies that dictate certain functionality may be disabled or limited on your devices, which may make sense for security and other reasons, but there also may be a conflict between that policy and certain applications you have out in your environment. I'll give you an example. I was at a large automotive manufacturer, and they disable their cameras on their mobile devices that they give out that's used internally because they don't want people taking a picture of next year's model, and which makes sense. But if you've got an application that's maybe used in a warehouse for mobile devices to take to scan barcodes, for example, and you've disabled the camera, well, then you're going to have a conflict between that. That application won't be able to work because of that policy. So before rolling out the policies and the applications to your end users, let's see if there's any types of conflicts between the policies and the applications, the devices and the operating system, and give you more insight into actual what features are utilized that are either optional or required for an application to use, and give you that insight prior to rolling those applications out. Also, we have support just like on the Windows side for Microsoft System Center Configuration Manager and Symantec Altiris to deploy those applications for Windows. On the mobile side, we have support today for AirWatch. And on the Mac side of things, we can publish Mac applications up through Casper Suite, or now Jamf Pro. So if you have any of those distribution systems, we can connect into and publish mobile and Mac applications for those systems as well. So as we've seen in this webinar, AdminStudio really accelerates the application testing and preparation process significantly over just doing this manually. However, if you really want to take it to the next level and jump to light speed with your application readiness process, you can take advantage of the automation that the platform APIs within AdminStudio Enterprise Edition provides. So if you're an existing AdminStudio Enterprise customer, you actually have access to these features today. Now, if you're evaluating AdminStudio, these APIs aren't enabled. However, I'll go ahead and show you now what's possible with an example script that actually grabbed right from our product help. So we have all of our PowerShell commandlets documented in the built-in help. So you can take the script that's in there that I'm about to show you and customize it further, or build your own scripts to take advantage of this automation. So now I'm going to show you an example of the platform API that's available in AdminStudio Enterprise. So I have a folder here. I have a PowerShell script, and again, this is actually a copy off of what I grabbed from our internal product help. So we had this built in here. Really wasn't a lot to update or change other than the folder to point to. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and run. Now I've got a folder here called automation. I've got a bunch of different MSI packages in here. And this is what I'm going to import all 8 of these into. The script I'm about to run is going to actually create a brand new catalog. It's going to import all 8 applications in here and run through all the testing for me. So I'll just let it run, and then once it's done, I can go right into it with AdminStudio and take a look at it further. Just to show you, I don't have any other catalogs, so this is the only database I have in my SQL Express setup is app catalog currently. So I'm going to go ahead and run this script. I'm going to call it test catalog, and I'm going to go ahead and let it run. Okay, so you can see that in about 5.5 minutes I was able to import 8 MSI applications into a brand new catalog and run through the various testing. You can even see the test results. A summary of those are shown right here. Now if I go back to SCCM, I can see that the test catalog that wasn't there before has been created. And if I go to AdminStudio, I can connect to that new catalog. I can see a whole series of applications have been imported. If I go into Test Center, I can see they've all been tested for operating system compatibility and virtualization and best practices, and even see a summary in the Report Center. So with this, you can see that the platform APIs within AdminStudio can really accelerate the application readiness and preparation process even further. And this is just a small sample of what you can do. We have other APIs available for having AdminStudio spin up virtual machines for repackaging. The platform APIs can also be used for publishing these applications into a distribution system like System Center Configuration Manager. So you can really have an end-to-end process that's fully automated, at least for the simple and medium complex applications out there, and really test a lot of your applications very quickly. Well, that's a quick overview of getting the most out of AdminStudio Suite. If you should have any further questions, you can contact us by phone with the numbers that you see here. You can also visit our customer community website, which is a great place for product documentation, a knowledge base, and community forums. You can also create new support requests online right from here, as well as submit any product ideas that you may have via our ideas section. Well, thank you for your time today attending the webinar. Have a great day.